Hello and welcome to the Cinematic Summary channel. In this video, we'll give you an easy and quick rundown of another critically acclaimed film. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give the video a like if you enjoyed it.
Brodie Torrance saves his passengers from a lightning strike by making a risky landing on a war-torn island only to find that surviving the landing was just the beginning. When most of the passengers are taken hostage by dangerous rebels, the only person Torrance can count on for help is Louis Gaspar, an accused murderer who was being transported by the FBI. To rescue the passengers, Torrance will need Gaspar's help and will learn there's more to Gaspar than meets the eye. If you want to know this story, follow the video. The film opens with Captain Brodie Torrance arriving in Singapore to fly Trailblazer Airlines Flight 119 to Honolulu. There is his daughter Daniela, anxiously waiting for him for the festivities, but she doubts that he won't be late as usual. Brodie, a former Royal Air Force pilot, meets his co-pilot, Samuel Delhi, who informs him that they'll be flying through a storm. As they prepare for takeoff, Bonnie, the chief flight attendant, informs Brodie that Officer Shellback needs to speak with him. Shellback informs Brodie that they're transporting a dangerous criminal named Louis Gaspar, who's a former French Foreign Legion soldier. The flight takes off, and we see various passengers, including social media influencers and a snooty businessman. Delhi talks with Brodie, who mentions the loss of his wife and the difficulties in being able to stay with his daughter because of the distance. As they fly over the South China Sea, the plane encounters heavy turbulence when it passes through the storm. The turbulence worsens, causing damage to the plane, and Brodie sustains a head injury. The stewardess was killed, and Shellback died after being thrown around when the plane started to descend. Brodie and Delhi manage to keep the plane under control without comms and radar, eventually making a rough emergency landing on a remote island. Once they land, Brodie orders the passengers to evacuate the plane. Brodie, Delhi, and Bonnie attempt to keep the passengers calm and search for a way to call for help. Brodie must also keep Gaspar, who has a violent past, away from the other passengers. As they explore the island, they discover that they've landed on Holo Island, which is operated by violent separatists. Meanwhile, in New York City, Trailblazers HQ's board of directors meets with their crisis manager, Scarsdale, to locate the missing plane and passengers. Scarsdale reviews Brodie's file, which includes a video of Brodie subduing an aggressive passenger during an altercation. Scarsdale plans to send a private military team to rescue everyone once they locate the plane, since they're aware of the dangers on Holo Island. Back on the island, the separatists, led by Datu Jun-Mar, learn about the crash and see it as an opportunity to benefit from the passengers. Brodie removes Gaspar's handcuffs, and they head into the woods in search of a way to call for help while trying to avoid the separatists. In Honolulu, Daniela's aunt informs her of her father's plane crash. Louis asks Brodie if he took the officer's gun on the plane and gets no response. When Brodie looks back, Louis has disappeared. Brodie finally reaches a tower where they pass their location on to a Trailblazers agent who doesn't believe him, thinking it's just one of many hoaxes about that flight. Meanwhile, Brodie calls Daniela, but a rebel attacks him. Brodie engages in a fierce fight, eventually killing the rebel. Later, as Brodie hears a rebel approaching, he hides. However, Louis appears and kills the soldier, then hands one of the weapons he obtained to the captain. As they investigate the building, they discover the heinous acts committed by the rebels against others' hostages. Meanwhile, Delhi manages to get the plane's battery working after an overhaul. When Brodie and Louis return to the plane, they find that the kidnappers have already taken the passengers hostage. A Korean woman tries to escape, but one of the rebels shoots her, and her husband is decapitated. They took the surviving hostages captive, but Brodie and Louis manage to subdue a rebel and gather information about the kidnappers' whereabouts. Brodie enters the cabin of the plane and discovers that Delhi has managed to make the battery work. He leaves a message to alert rescuers about the kidnapping. Brodie and Louis move towards the village where Jun-Mar keeps the hostages and forces them to record their names and countries for the ransom video. Meanwhile, a military team arrives on the island and finds the bodies of the stewardess and Shellback and Brody's message about the hijacking. When Brody and Lewis finally reach the village, they remain cautious as they are outnumbered. Upon spotting the hostages' bus, they sneak up on the captive and manage rescue the hostages by killing more rebels. As they board a bus, Brody remains behind to hold off the rebels. June Mar and his men beat Brody and prepare to execute him, but the military team arrives, killing the rebels. The bus manages to flee the village to the plane's location where an intense exchange of fire takes place against the rebels. The military team's armament is heavier, and even in a smaller number they manage to buy time for the passengers to board the plane. Lewis runs out of shots and notices a bag of money among the ammunition. Everyone boards the plane, and Brody plans to fly it despite its severe damage. Lewis chooses to stay on the island with the military team as he has no future elsewhere and found a bag of ransom money. Brody lifts the plane high in the air, killing June Mar, who attempts to fire an RPG. Brody lands the plane safely at a nearby airstrip in Siassi, causing everyone to cheer. As the passengers settle in, Brody calls Daniela to inform her that he will be late for the celebrations.
So, did you like the video? We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on the movie, so please leave a comment below. Also watch other of our summaries of the best movies in cinema. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.